Marcus Williams had been working as a security guard at the prestigious Riverside Mall for 3 years. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave him a sense of purpose. At 32, Marcus was a former military man who took his responsibilities seriously. He knew every corner of the mall, every shop owner, and most of the regular customers who came through those glass doors daily. The mall was one of those upscale places where wealthy families did their shopping. Designer stores lined the corridors, and the food court served expensive coffee and gourmet meals. Marcus often joked with his colleagues that he felt like he was guarding a small kingdom, which is how he earned the nickname Royal Guard among the other security staff. On this particular Tuesday morning in September, Marcus was making his usual rounds when something caught his attention. Near the children's clothing store, he noticed a man in his late 30s with a young girl who couldn't have been more than 8 years old. The man was well dressed in a business suit, talking loudly on his phone while the little girl stood silently beside him. What struck Marcus wasn't the scene itself, but the girl's behavior. She stood perfectly still, her small hands clasped in front of her, eyes downcast. Most children her age would be running around, touching things, asking questions, or at least showing some signs of curiosity about the colorful displays around them. This little girl looked like a statue. Marcus had seen many families during his time at the mall. He'd witnessed tantrums, excited children dragging parents from store to store, and teenagers rolling their eyes at their parents' choices. But this child's stillness was different. It wasn't the calm of a well-behaved child. It was the silence of someone who had learned not to draw attention to themselves. The man finished his phone call and grabbed the girl's wrist, not her hand. Marcus noticed the difference immediately. When parents hold their children's hands, it's gentle and protective. When they grab wrists, it's controlling. The man pulled the girl toward the escalator, and she stumbled slightly, but quickly caught herself without making a sound. Marcus decided to follow them discreetly. His training had taught him to trust his instincts, and something about this situation felt wrong. He maintained his distance, pretending to check on different areas of the mall while keeping them in sight. They went to several stores over the next hour. Each time the pattern was the same. The man would look at clothes or items while the girl stood motionless beside him. She never asked for anything, never pointed at toys or clothes she liked, never even seemed to look around with interest. When the man spoke to her, which was rare, she would nod quickly and look down again. At one point, they stopped at the toy store. Marcus watched as other children in the store ran excitedly between aisles, their parents struggling to keep up. But this little girl just stood at the entrance while the man talked to a store clerk about something. A colorful display of dolls was right next to her, but she didn't even glance at them. Marcus began to notice other details. The girl's clothes were expensive and clean, but they seemed too big for her small frame. Her hair was neatly combed, but there was something about her posture that reminded Marcus of soldiers he'd seen, who were afraid of their commanding officers. She kept her shoulders slightly hunched, as if trying to make herself smaller. During his military service, Marcus had been stationed in areas where he'd encountered children who had experienced trauma. He recognized the signs, the hypervigilance, the frozen behavior, the way they tried to become invisible. This little girl displayed all of these characteristics. The man's behavior was equally concerning. He never spoke to the girl with warmth or affection. When he did address her, his tone was sharp and impatient. He never asked if she wanted anything or if she was tired. He treated her more like an inconvenient object he had to carry around, rather than a child in his care. Marcus tried to get closer to hear their conversation, but the man kept his voice low when speaking to the girl. However, Marcus did catch one exchange near the electronics store. The girl had shifted her weight from one foot to the other, probably because her feet were getting tired from standing for so long. The man immediately snapped at her in a harsh whisper. "Stop moving around, you know better than that." The girl immediately froze again, and Marcus saw her shoulders tense up even more. What kind of adult gets angry at a child for simply shifting their weight after standing still for over an hour? Marcus's concern grew deeper when he observed how the girl reacted to other people. When store clerks smiled at her or tried to engage her in friendly conversation, she would look quickly at the man before responding. It was as if she needed permission to speak to anyone. Most children that age would chat freely with friendly adults, especially in a safe environment like a shopping mall. The final moment that convinced Marcus something was seriously wrong happened, near the fountain in the mall center. The girl was standing while the man sat on a bench still talking on his phone. Another child, probably around the same age, was playing nearby and accidentally bumped into her while chasing a ball. The normal reaction would be for a child to say, "Excuse me," or maybe laugh it off. Instead, this little girl's face showed pure terror. She looked immediately at the man who had noticed the interaction and was glaring at her. The girl's whole body went rigid, and Marcus could see her hands trembling slightly. It was in that moment that Marcus realized this wasn't just strict parenting or a shy child. This was a little girl who was living in fear. She was afraid of making any mistake, afraid of drawing attention, afraid of doing anything that might upset the man she was with. Marcus knew he had to do something, but he also knew he had to be careful. He couldn't just walk up to them without a good reason. He needed a plan that would allow him to assess the situation better and potentially help the child if his suspicions were correct. The man was clearly not the girl's father. There was no resemblance between them, and more importantly, there was no bond. Marcus had seen enough families to know what genuine parent-child relationships looked like. This wasn't one of them. As Marcus continued his observation, he began formulating a plan. He needed to find a way to interact with them naturally, to get a better sense of what was happening and possibly give the girl an opportunity to communicate if she needed help. Marcus decided to approach them at the food court, where it would seem natural for a security guard to check on customers. He waited until they sat down at a table, the man with a coffee and the girl with nothing. Marcus noticed she didn't even have water, despite having walked around the mall for over 2 hours. He walked over casually, adjusting his security badge as he approached their table. "Good afternoon, sir. I'm Marcus, mall security. Just making my rounds and checking that everyone's enjoying their visit today." The man looked up, slightly annoyed at the interruption. "Everything's fine, thanks." Marcus smiled and looked down at the girl. "And how about you, young lady? Are you having a good time shopping today?" The girl's eyes darted quickly to the man, before she gave a barely audible, "Yes, sir." Her voice was so quiet that Marcus had to lean in slightly to hear her. "That's wonderful," Marcus continued, maintaining his friendly tone. "What's your favorite store here? I bet you like the toy store or maybe the place with all the colorful clothes." Again, the girl looked at the man before answering. This time, the man answered for her. "She's not much of a talker, we're just finishing up here." Marcus noticed how the man's hand moved to rest on the girl's shoulder, but it wasn't a comforting gesture. His grip looked firm, almost controlling. The girl's body language changed immediately when he touched her, becoming even more rigid if that was possible. "I understand," Marcus said, but his trained eye was picking up more details. The girl's wrists had faint marks that looked like they could be from being grabbed too tightly. Her neck had a small bruise that was partially hidden by her collar. These weren't the kinds of marks you'd see from normal childhood activities. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, is this your daughter?" Marcus asked, trying to sound conversational. "She's my stepdaughter," the man replied curtly. "And we really need to get going." "Of course," Marcus said, but he wasn't ready to end the conversation. It's always nice to see families spending time together. "Where are you folks from?" The man's irritation was becoming more obvious. "Look, officer, I appreciate you doing your job, but we're just trying to have a quiet afternoon. Is there a problem?" Marcus raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "No problem at all, sir, just being friendly. That's what good customer service is all about." He turned his attention back to the girl. "Hey, sweetheart, you look a little tired. Have you had anything to drink today? I can show your dad where the water fountains are." "Stepdad," the man corrected sharply, "and she's fine." But Marcus could see that the girl wasn't fine. Her lips looked dry and she kept swallowing as if her mouth was parched. When Marcus mentioned water, he saw a flicker of hope in her eyes before she quickly looked down again. "You know what?" Marcus said, reaching into his pocket. "I've got a voucher here for a free drink from the juice bar. It's part of our customer appreciation program." He wasn't lying. The mall did have such vouchers, though he was supposed to give them to paying customers who had complaints. He held out the voucher to the girl, but the man intercepted it. "That's not necessary." "Oh, come on," Marcus insisted with a laugh. "Every kid loves a good fruit smoothie. It's no trouble at all." He looked directly at the girl again. "What's your favorite flavor?" "They have strawberry, mango, apple." For the first time since Marcus had been observing them, the girl showed a spark of interest. Her eyes lit up slightly at the mention of strawberry, but then she caught herself and the expression disappeared. The man stood up abruptly. "We need to leave now. Thank you for the offer, but we're late for an appointment." As they prepared to leave, Marcus noticed something that made his heart race. The girl had been sitting on her hands, and when she moved them, he saw that her palms had small circular marks that looked like cigarette burns. They were old, partially healed, but unmistakable to someone who had seen such injuries before. Marcus knew he had to act fast. "Wait just one moment," he called after them. "Sir, I think you dropped something." The man turned back, annoyed. "I didn't drop anything." "Are you sure?" Marcus asked, approaching them again. This gave him another chance to observe the girl up close. What he saw confirmed his worst fears. Besides the marks on her hands, there were finger-shaped bruises on her upper arms that were visible when her sleeves shifted. Her behavior wasn't just that of a shy child, it was that of someone who had been systematically terrorized into silence. "I'm quite sure I didn't drop anything," the man said firmly, taking the girl's wrist again in that controlling grip Marcus had noticed before. "My mistake," Marcus said, but he was already formulating his next move. "You two have a great rest of your day." As they walked away, Marcus pretended to continue his patrol, but he was actually following them again. He used his radio to discreetly contact his supervisor. "Hey Mike, it's Marcus. I need you to keep an eye on the main exits. I've got a situation developing that might need backup." "What kind of situation?" came the reply through his earpiece. "Possible child abuse case. Adult male, business suit with a young girl, maybe 8 years old. If they try to leave, I need them delayed somehow until I can get there." "Copy that." "Are you sure about this, Marcus?" Marcus watched as the man jerked the girl's arm to make her walk faster. She stumbled but didn't make a sound, just hurried to keep up with his pace. "Yeah, I'm sure." Marcus continued following them, maintaining his distance but keeping them in sight. They went into a department store, and Marcus positioned himself near the entrance. He could see them through the large windows, and what he observed made him even more certain that he was witnessing abuse. The man was looking at men's clothing while the girl stood beside a rack of women's dresses. Marcus watched as she gently touched the fabric of a bright yellow dress, just for a moment. It was such a simple, innocent gesture, the kind of thing any child might do when seeing something beautiful. But the man noticed. Even from his position outside the store, Marcus could see the man's angry reaction. He couldn't hear what was said, but he saw the man grab the girl's hand roughly and pull it away from the dress. The girl's shoulders sagged, and she went back to her statue-like pose. That was when Marcus decided he couldn't wait any longer. He had seen enough evidence to know that this child was in immediate danger. The burns, the bruises, the terror in her eyes, the way she flinched at every interaction, the controlling behavior of the man, all pointed to ongoing abuse. Marcus called for backup and began planning his approach. He couldn't just accuse the man outright without risking the situation escalating, but he also couldn't let them leave the mall. The girl needed help, and Marcus was determined to be the one to provide it. Marcus knew he needed help from professionals who were trained to handle child abuse cases. He used his security office phone to call the local police department, specifically asking for someone experienced with child protection services. "This is Officer Sarah Chen," came a calm, professional voice on the line. "Officer Chen, this is Marcus Williams, head of security at Riverside Mall. I have a situation here that needs immediate attention. I believe I'm witnessing child abuse and I need guidance on how to proceed safely. Can you describe what you're observing?" Officer Chen asked. Marcus quickly outlined everything he had seen: the girl's fearful behavior, the physical evidence of abuse he'd noticed, the controlling behavior of the man and the way the child seemed terrified of making any mistake. "You did the right thing calling us," Officer Chen said. "I'm sending a team to your location, but they'll be in plain clothes. To avoid alarming the suspect. Can you keep them in the mall without making them suspicious?" "I think so," Marcus replied. "They're shopping, so I can probably find reasons to keep them here for another 30 minutes or so." "Good. In the meantime, I need you to be very careful. If this man realizes he's being watched, he might panic or become violent. Do not confront him directly. Can you get any information about who they are?" Marcus thought about this. "I might be able to find out more. Let me see what I can do." After ending the call, Marcus developed a plan. He contacted his colleague Jenny, who worked at the customer service desk. "Jenny, I need a favor. Can you make an announcement about a lost child? Say we found a small pink backpack near the toy store and the owner can claim it at customer service?" "Sure, but why?" Jenny asked. "Just trust me on this one. It's important." The announcement went out, over the mall's speaker system. Marcus positioned himself where he could watch the man and girl's reaction. If the girl had lost something or if she reacted to the announcement, it might give him more information. The girl's head lifted slightly when she heard the announcement about a pink backpack, and Marcus saw her touch her shoulder where a backpack strap might normally rest. She didn't have a backpack with her now. The man noticed her reaction and said something to her in a harsh whisper that made her shrink back. This gave Marcus an idea. He approached them again, this time with a clipboard and a more official demeanor. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus said. "I'm sorry to bother you again, but we've had a report of some suspicious activity in this area, and I'm checking with everyone who's been in this section of the mall. Just for security purposes, could I get your name and contact information?" The man's face flushed with anger. "What kind of suspicious activity? We haven't done anything wrong." "Oh, no, sir, you're not suspects," Marcus said quickly. "It's just routine. Someone reported seeing a person acting strangely near the electronics store, and we're checking with all the shoppers in this area to see if anyone noticed anything unusual." This was a lie, but Marcus needed information, and this seemed like the safest way to get it. "My name is David Morrison," the man said reluctantly. "But we didn't see anything unusual." "Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And this is your daughter?" "Stepdaughter. Emma." For the first time, Marcus had names. He looked at Emma and smiled gently. "Hi, Emma. Did you see anything strange earlier? Sometimes kids notice things adults miss." Emma looked at David quickly before shaking her head, but Marcus caught something in her expression. When he said the word strange, her eyes flickered with what looked like recognition, as if she wanted to say that everything in her life was strange and frightening. "Well, that's fine," Marcus said. "Thank you both for your cooperation." He made a note on his clipboard, though he was actually just writing down their names and his observations about Emma's condition. As he walked away, Marcus's radio crackled. "Marcus, we have 2 plainclothes officers entering through the main entrance. Officer Chen and Detective Rodriguez. They're heading to your location." "Copy that," Marcus replied quietly. He spotted the officers easily despite their casual clothes. They had the alert, observant look of experienced law enforcement. Officer Chen was a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, while Detective Rodriguez was an older man with graying hair. Marcus approached them carefully. "Officer Chen, I'm Marcus Williams." "Good to meet you in person, Mr. Williams. This is Detective Rodriguez. He specializes in child protection cases. Can you point out the individuals you're concerned about?" Marcus discreetly indicated David and Emma, who were now at a jewelry store. The man gave his name as David Morrison. He says the girl is his stepdaughter, Emma. Detective Rodriguez observed them for a few minutes, his trained eye picking up the same details Marcus had noticed. "You were right to call us," he said quietly. "That child shows clear signs of trauma and abuse. Look at her posture, the way she monitors his every move, the hypervigilance. And I can see some of the physical evidence you mentioned." Officer Chen nodded. "We need to approach this carefully. If we alarm him, he might hurt her or flee. Do you have a quiet area where we could potentially separate them for questioning?" Yes, we have private security offices, Marcus replied. But how do we get them there without making him suspicious? Detective Rodriguez had an idea. Mr. Williams, is there a store in this mall that might have a security issue we could use as a pretext? Maybe something that would require witness statements? Marcus thought about this. Actually, yes. The electronics store reported some shoplifting issues earlier this week. I could say we're following up and need to speak with anyone who was in that area today. Perfect, Officer Chen said. That gives us a legitimate reason to separate them for individual questioning. In cases like this, children often won't speak up if their abuser is present. They developed a plan. Marcus would approach David and Emma, explaining that there had been a theft at the electronics store and that security needed to speak with shoppers who were in that area. He would say that for efficiency, they were interviewing adults and children separately since the questions were different. Marcus felt nervous as he approached them again. Everything depended on David believing this was routine and not connected to Emma's condition. Mr. Morrison, Marcus called out, I'm sorry to bother you again, but I have an update on that security issue I mentioned earlier. David turned, looking annoyed. What now? It turns out there was a theft at the electronics store and we need to speak with everyone who was in that area today. Since you folks were there earlier, we'd like to get brief statements from both of you. It's just routine, but it helps us with our investigation. We didn't see any theft, David said defensively. I'm sure you didn't, sir. Most people don't notice these things happening. The thieves are usually very skilled, but sometimes witnesses remember details that help us even if they didn't realize they saw anything important at the time. David seemed to relax slightly at this explanation. How long will this take? Just a few minutes for each of you. Since the questions are different for adults and children, we usually interview them separately. It's more efficient that way. Marcus held his breath, waiting for David's response. Emma stood silently beside him, but Marcus noticed she was listening intently to every word. David hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of being separated from Emma. Can't we just do this together? She's just a kid. She probably didn't notice anything. I understand your concern, Mr. Morrison, Marcus said calmly. But it's standard procedure. Sometimes children remember details that adults miss and vice versa. It won't take long and you'll be right down the hall from each other. Marcus could see David weighing his options. Refusing would look suspicious, but agreeing meant losing control over Emma, even temporarily. Finally, David nodded reluctantly. Fine, but make it quick. We have other places to be today. Absolutely, sir. Right this way. Marcus led them toward the security offices, his heart pounding. He knew that the next few minutes could change Emma's life forever. As they walked, he noticed that Emma kept looking around, as if trying to memorize the path they were taking. Emma will be with Officer Chen, Marcus explained as they reached the offices. She's great with kids and has lots of experience with these kinds of interviews. Mr. Morrison, Detective Rodriguez will speak with you. David's eyes narrowed. Officers? I thought you said this was mall security. Marcus kept his voice steady. When there's a theft, we work with local police. It's all routine, sir. Detective Rodriguez stepped forward with his badge. Mr. Morrison, I'm Detective Rodriguez. Thank you for cooperating with our investigation. If you'll come with me, we can get your statement and get you folks back to your shopping. Meanwhile, Officer Chen knelt down to Emma's eye level. Hi, Emma. I'm Officer Chen. You're not in any trouble, okay? I just want to ask you a few questions about what you might have seen today. Is that all right? Emma looked back at David, who was being led into another room. For the first time since Marcus had been watching her, she was going to be alone with adults who weren't controlling her every move. Officer Chen gently guided Emma into a comfortable room with soft chairs and some children's books on a table. Emma, would you like some water or maybe something to eat? I have some crackers if you're hungry. Emma nodded slightly at the mention of water. Officer Chen poured her a cup from a cooler in the corner, and Emma drank it eagerly as if she hadn't had anything to drink in hours. That's better, Officer Chen said softly. Emma, I want you to know that you're safe here with me. Nobody's going to hurt you or be angry with you for anything you say, do you understand? Emma nodded, but she still looked terrified. Good. Now I know Mr. Morrison says he's your stepdad. Can you tell me about your family? Where do you live? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I live with David. My mom went away. When did your mom go away, sweetie? A long time ago. David said she left because I was bad. Officer Chen felt her heart break at these words, but she kept her voice gentle and steady. Emma, children are never bad enough for their moms to leave them. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that have nothing to do with kids. Can you tell me how long you've been living with David? I think maybe a year. I'm not sure. The days feel long. I understand. Emma, I noticed you have some marks on your hands and arms. Can you tell me how you got those? Emma looked down at her hands and pulled her sleeves over them. I'm clumsy. Sometimes. David says I need to learn to be more careful. What happens when David thinks you're not being careful enough? Emma was quiet for a long time. Officer Chen waited patiently, not pushing her to answer. Finally, Emma spoke in a voice so quiet Officer Chen had to lean forward to hear her. He gets angry. He says I need to learn lessons so I remember to be good. What kind of lessons, Emma? Emma rolled up her sleeve slightly, showing the circular marks Marcus had noticed. He uses his cigarettes sometimes, or he holds my hands under hot water. He says it helps me remember. Officer Chen had to take a deep breath to maintain her composure. Emma, that's not okay. Adults should never hurt children, even when they make mistakes. What David is doing to you is called abuse, and it's not your fault. But I do bad things sometimes, Emma said quickly. Yesterday I dropped a glass, and sometimes I get hungry and ask for food when I'm not supposed to. Honey, dropping a glass is an accident. Everyone has accidents, and children are supposed to ask for food when they're hungry. None of those things are bad enough for someone to hurt you. Emma looked confused, as if this was the first time anyone had told her these things weren't her fault. Meanwhile, in the other room, Detective Rodriguez was having a very different conversation with David Morrison. Mr. Morrison, I need to ask you some questions about your relationship with Emma. She's my stepdaughter. Her mother left about a year ago, and I've been taking care of her since then. That's very responsible of you. Do you have legal custody of Emma? David shifted uncomfortably. It's complicated. Her mother didn't leave much paperwork behind. I see. Can you give me Emma's mother's full name and contact information? We might need to reach her as part of our investigation. I don't have her current information. She just left one day. Detective Rodriguez had investigated many abuse cases, and David's answers were raising red flags. Mr. Morrison, I need you to be completely honest with me. What is your exact relationship to Emma, and how did she come to be in your care? David's story began to change. Look, I was dating her mother, Sarah. Sarah had some problems. Drug problems. One day she asked me to watch Emma for a few days, while she got help. That was over a year ago. I never heard from her again. Do you have any documentation of this arrangement? Any legal paperwork giving you guardianship? No, it was all informal. I couldn't just abandon the kid. Detective Rodriguez made notes. David's story didn't add up, and his defensive behavior suggested he was hiding something important. Back in the other room, Officer Chen was making progress with Emma. Emma, I want you to think carefully about this question. Has David ever touched you in ways that made you uncomfortable? In private areas of your body? Emma shook her head quickly. No, he doesn't do that. He just wants me to be good and quiet. He says children should be seen and not heard. What about food, Emma? Do you get enough to eat at home? Sometimes. David says food costs money and I have to earn it by being good. If I'm bad, I don't eat dinner. Sometimes I don't eat for 2 days if I do something really wrong. Officer Chen was documenting everything Emma told her. Each revelation painted a clearer picture of systematic abuse and neglect. Emma, one more question. Do you know your real last name? Or your mom's full name? My mom was Sarah. Sarah Johnson, I think. My name used to be Emma Johnson before David said I had to use his name. This information would allow them to search for Emma's mother and determine her real legal status. Officer Chen stood up. Emma, I want you to know that you've been very brave today. You're not in trouble, and none of this is your fault. We're going to make sure you're safe, okay? Emma looked up with hope in her eyes for the first time. Does that mean I won't have to go back with David? We're going to do everything we can to keep you safe, Officer Chen promised. Officer Chen stepped out of the room where Emma was waiting and met with Detective Rodriguez in the hallway. Marcus joined them, eager to hear what they had discovered. What did you find out? Marcus asked quietly. Detective Rodriguez spoke first. David Morrison's story doesn't hold up. He claims Emma's mother asked him to watch her temporarily over a year ago and never came back. But he has no legal documentation, no official custody arrangement, and he's been evasive about basic information, like the mother's full name and contact details. And Emma confirmed his story is false, Officer Chen added. Her mother's name is Sarah Johnson, not Sarah Morrison. According to Emma, David told her that her mother left because she was bad, which is a classic manipulation tactic used by abusers to make children blame themselves. Marcus felt a mixture of relief and anger, relief that they were taking action to help Emma, and anger at what this innocent child had endured. The physical evidence supports Emma's account of ongoing abuse, Officer Chen continued. She has cigarette burns on her hands and arms. She's been denied food as punishment. She's been systematically terrorized into complete compliance. This is one of the worst cases of child abuse I've seen in years. Detective Rodriguez nodded, grimly. We need to contact Child Protective Services immediately and get Emma into emergency foster care. As for Morrison, we have enough evidence to arrest him on multiple charges of child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, and possibly kidnapping if we can't verify his story about the mother's consent. What happens next? Marcus asked. First, we need to make sure Emma is safe. Then we'll continue our investigation to find out exactly how she ended up in Morrison's care and whether there are other victims. Officer Chen returned to Emma while Detective Rodriguez prepared to confront David Morrison with what they had learned. Marcus stayed in the hallway, his role as a security guard technically finished, but his concern for Emma keeping him nearby. Emma, Officer Chen said gently, we've learned some important things today. First, I want you to know that you're not going back with David. You're going to stay with some nice people who know how to take care of children while we sort everything out. Emma's eyes widened. Really? I don't have to go home with him? No, sweetheart. You're going to be safe now. A social worker's coming to meet you, and she'll take you somewhere David can't hurt you anymore. For the first time since Marcus had observed her, Emma showed genuine emotion. Tears started flowing down her cheeks, but they seemed to be tears of relief rather than fear. Am I in trouble? Emma asked through her tears. Absolutely not. You haven't done anything wrong. The grown-ups are in charge of taking care of you, and when they don't do that job properly, other grown-ups step in to help. That's what's happening. Now. In the other room, Detective Rodriguez was having a much more serious conversation with David Morrison. Mr. Morrison, I need to inform you that based on our investigation, we have evidence of ongoing child abuse. You are under arrest. David's face went from confusion to anger to panic in a matter of seconds. This is ridiculous. I've been taking care of that kid for over a year. Her mother abandoned her. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As Detective Rodriguez read David, his rights, David continued protesting his innocence, but his arguments only made him sound more guilty. She's a difficult child. She needs discipline. I was trying to teach her how to behave. Mr. Morrison, burning a child with cigarettes is not discipline, it's torture. Withholding food is not teaching behavior, it's abuse. Marcus could hear David's voice getting louder and more agitated as the reality of his situation set in. Meanwhile, Emma was meeting with Maria Santos, a social worker who specialized in emergency child placement. Hi, Emma. I'm Maria. I work with children who need safe places to stay. Officer Chen tells me you've been very brave today. Emma looked at Maria cautiously. Over the past year, she had learned not to trust adults quickly, but Maria's gentle manner and Officer Chen's presence helped her feel a bit more secure. Where will I go? Emma asked. I have a very nice family who takes care of children temporarily while we figure out the best permanent solution. They have a comfortable house with a room just for you. and they know all about making children feel safe and welcome. Will they hurt me if I make mistakes? Emma asked, her voice still small and uncertain. Maria's heart ached at the question. No, sweetheart. Good families don't hurt children when they make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes, even grown-ups. When children make mistakes, good families help them learn better ways to do things. Emma seemed to be processing this information as if it was completely foreign to her experience. What about food? Do I have to be good to eat? Oh, honey, no, Maria said softly. Children need food to grow and be healthy. You'll have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, plus snacks when you're hungry. Food isn't something you have to earn. These simple concepts seemed revolutionary to Emma, who had spent a year believing that basic necessities were privileges she had to earn through perfect behavior. Meanwhile, Marcus was watching as David Morrison was led away in handcuffs. Other mall shoppers stared as the police escorted him through the mall, but Marcus felt no sympathy for the man. His only thought was relief that Emma would never have to endure his cruelty again. Detective Rodriguez approached Marcus. Mr. Williams, I want to thank you for your vigilance today. If you hadn't noticed Emma's distress and taken action, she might have continued suffering for months or even years. I just did what anyone should do, Marcus replied modestly. Actually, that's not true, Detective Rodriguez corrected him. Most people wouldn't have noticed the signs, and even fewer would have had the courage to get involved. You saved that little girl's life today. Officer Chen joined them in the hallway. Emma is doing as well as can be expected. Maria is taking her to the foster family now. It's going to be a long road to recovery, but children are resilient. With proper care and therapy, she can heal from this. What about finding her real mother? Marcus asked. We're already working on that, Detective Rodriguez replied. With Emma's real name and her mother's information, we should be able to track down what happened to Sarah Johnson. If she's alive and capable of caring for Emma, we'll work toward reunification. If not, we'll find Emma a permanent, loving home. They prepared to leave the mall. Emma stopped and looked back at Marcus. Maria had explained to her who he was and how he had helped her. Mr. Marcus? Emma said quietly. Yes, sweetie? Thank you for helping me. I was scared, but I didn't know how to ask for help. Marcus knelt down to her level, just as Officer Chen had done earlier. Emma, you never have to be afraid to ask for help. There are lots of good people in the world who want to keep children safe. If you ever feel scared or unsafe again, you find a police officer, a teacher, or another trusted grown-up, okay? Emma nodded solemnly. I will. As Marcus watched Emma leave with Maria Santos, he felt a profound sense of satisfaction. His military training had taught him to protect people, and today he had protected someone who couldn't protect herself. Later that evening, Marcus received a call from Detective Rodriguez with an update. We found Sarah Johnson, the detective reported. She's alive and has been looking for Emma for over a year. Apparently Morrison was Sarah's boyfriend, and when she tried to break up with him due to his controlling behavior, he disappeared with Emma. Sarah has been working with police in 3 different states trying to find her daughter. Marcus felt tears of joy forming in his eyes. So Emma can go back to her real mother? It looks that way. Sarah will have to go through some evaluations to make sure she can provide a safe home. But so far everything looks positive. Morrison apparently told Emma that her mother abandoned her, but the truth is that Sarah never stopped looking for her child. 3 weeks later, Marcus received another call, this time from Officer Chen. Marcus, I have wonderful news. Emma has been reunited with her mother. Sarah Johnson has been cleared by Child Protective Services, and Emma is back home where she belongs. How is Emma doing? Marcus asked. She's struggling with some of the psychological effects of the abuse, but she's in therapy and making good progress. Her mother says Emma talks about the nice security guard who helped her. She wanted me to tell you that she's learning to be a regular kid again. She's even started playing with toys and asking for things she wants. Marcus smiled, imagining Emma finally feeling free to be a child. There's something else, Officer Chen continued. Emma and her mother would like to meet with you, if you're willing. They want to thank you properly Marcus didn't hesitate. I would love to see Emma again. 2 months after the incident at the mall, Marcus received a call from Sarah Johnson, Emma's mother. Her voice was warm, but emotional as she spoke. "Mr. Williams, this is Sarah Johnson, Emma's mom. I can't begin to tell you how grateful I am for what you did for my daughter. You saved her life and you gave me back my little girl." Marcus felt moved by her words. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm just glad Emma is safe and back with you where she belongs. Emma talks about you often. She calls you her guardian angel. Would it be possible for us to meet? Emma really wants to see you again and I want to thank you in person." They arranged to meet at a small park near Emma's home the following Saturday. When Marcus arrived, he saw a transformed child. Emma was playing on the swings, her laughter carrying across the playground. Her hair was in pigtails with bright ribbons, and she was wearing a colorful dress that actually fit her properly. When Emma saw Marcus approaching, she ran toward him with a huge smile on her face. The contrast with the terrified, silent child he had first encountered was remarkable. "Mr. Marcus," she called out, throwing her arms around him in a big hug. "Look, I can play now, and I can laugh as loud as I want." Marcus hugged her back, feeling tears in his eyes at seeing her so happy and free. "You look wonderful, Emma. Are you doing okay?" "I'm doing great. My real mom lets me eat whenever I'm hungry, and she reads me stories at night. And look." Emma held up her hands proudly. "My burns are getting better. The doctor says they'll fade more with time." Sarah Johnson approached them, and Marcus could see where Emma got her kind eyes. She was a woman in her early 30s with the same gentle demeanor as her daughter. "Mr. Williams, I'm Sarah. Thank you so much for meeting us." Her voice broke, slightly with emotion. "I don't know how to properly thank someone for giving me back my child. Please call me Marcus. And you don't need to thank me. I just did what anyone should do." Sarah shook her head. "That's not true, and you know it. Most people would have walked past Emma and not noticed anything wrong. You saw a child in trouble, and you risked your own safety to help her. That takes real courage and compassion." They sat on a park bench while Emma continued playing, staying close enough to hear their conversation, but far enough to give them privacy to talk. "Can you tell me what really happened?" Marcus asked. Emma mentioned that David told her you had abandoned her. Sarah's face darkened with anger and pain. "David Morrison was someone I dated for about 6 months. At first he seemed charming and attentive, but gradually he became controlling and possessive. When I tried to break up with him, he became threatening. One day he offered to take Emma to the zoo while I worked. I thought it would be good for her to have a fun day out." Sarah paused, wiping away tears. They never came back. David disappeared, with Emma, and I spent the next 13 months searching for her. I filed police reports, hired private investigators, and traveled to 3 different states following leads. I never stopped looking for my baby. Marcus listened with a heavy heart, imagining the agony this mother had endured. "The worst part," Sarah continued, "was not knowing if Emma was alive or dead. David had made threats about what he would do if I ever tried to leave him. I was terrified that he might hurt her just to get back at me." "How did you find out what happened to her?" Marcus asked. "Detective Rodriguez contacted me the day after you rescued her. When they ran Emma's information through missing person databases, my report came up immediately. I drove straight to the city that night. I'll never forget the moment I saw Emma again." Sarah smiled through her tears. She was so thin and scared. She didn't recognize me at first because David had told her I was dead. It took hours of gentle conversation before she believed I was really her mother and that I had never stopped loving her. Emma ran back to them, out of breath from playing. "Mama, can you tell Mr. Marcus about my new school?" "Emma started at a new school last week," Sarah explained. "She's getting extra help to catch up academically since David didn't let her attend school regularly. But she's very bright, and her teachers say she's making excellent progress." "And I made a friend," Emma added excitedly. "Her name is Lucy, and she sits next to me at lunch. She showed me how to use the monkey bars." Marcus marveled at how quickly Emma was adapting to a normal childhood. Children truly were resilient when given the chance to heal. Emma also goes to a special counselor twice a week, Sarah continued. Dr. Martinez specializes in helping children who have experienced trauma. Emma was reluctant at first, but now she looks forward to her appointments. Dr. Martinez taught me that it's okay to have feelings, Emma said seriously. She says it's normal to feel sad or angry sometimes, and I don't have to hide my feelings anymore. As they talked, Marcus learned more about Emma's recovery process. The physical wounds were healing, but the psychological effects of the abuse would take much longer to overcome. Emma still had nightmares sometimes, and she occasionally reverted to her old fearful behaviors when she was stressed or tired. But she's getting stronger every day, Sarah said proudly. Yesterday she asked me if she could take dance lessons. 6 months ago she was afraid to ask for a glass of water. Marcus felt overwhelmed by the positive changes in Emma's life, but he also realized this was just the beginning of her healing journey. What happened to David Morrison? Marcus asked. Sarah's expression hardened. He was charged with multiple felonies, including child abuse, unlawful imprisonment, and kidnapping. His trial is next month, and Emma will have to testify. Dr. Martinez is helping prepare her for that. Are you worried about Emma having to testify? I am, Sarah admitted, but the prosecutor says Emma's testimony is crucial for getting Morrison the sentence he deserves. Emma says she wants to tell the judge what he did so he can't hurt other children. Emma overheard this part of the conversation. Mr. Marcus, I'm scared to see David again, but I want to tell everyone what he did. Dr. Martinez says that speaking the truth helps me heal, and it might protect other kids too. Marcus was amazed by this little girl's courage. After everything she had endured, she was still thinking about protecting other children. Emma, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met, Marcus told her sincerely. As their visit came to an end, Emma had one more surprise for Marcus. I made you something, she said shyly, pulling a folded piece of paper from her pocket. It was a drawing of a man in a security uniform with a badge that read, Hero. At the bottom, in careful childish handwriting, she had written, Thank you for saving me. Love, Emma. Marcus felt tears flowing freely down his cheeks as he looked at the drawing. Emma, this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me. I'm going to frame it and put it in my office so I can look at it every day. Emma beamed with pride. Really? Really? And Emma, I want you to remember something important. You saved yourself too. You were brave enough to let people help you, and that took a lot of courage. As they prepared to leave, Sarah handed Marcus a business card. Marcus, I'm a social worker myself, and I'd like to talk to you about something. There's a program at the Children's Hospital where volunteers help train security guards, teachers, and other professionals to recognize signs of child abuse. Would you be interested in helping with that program? Marcus looked at the card thoughtfully. You mean help other people learn what to look for? Exactly. Your natural instincts and quick action saved Emma. But imagine if more people had that kind of training. We could help so many more children. Marcus thought about all the times he had walked through that mall, observing families and children. How many other Emmas might he have missed because he didn't know what signs to look for? I'd be honored to help, Marcus said. 6 months later, Marcus had become a certified trainer in recognizing child abuse. He worked with schools, shopping centers, and community organizations, teaching people how to spot the warning signs and how to respond appropriately when they suspected a child was in danger. Emma's drawing hung framed in his office, a daily reminder that one person's decision to get involved could change a child's entire life. And every time Marcus looked at it, he remembered that sometimes being a hero was as simple as paying attention and caring enough to act. Emma thrived in her new life. She excelled in school, made many friends, and even started those dance lessons she had asked for. The scared, silent child Marcus had first encountered had transformed into a happy, confident little girl who knew she was loved and safe. The trial resulted in David Morrison being sentenced to 15 years in prison. Emma's testimony, delivered with remarkable composure for someone so young, helped ensure he would never be able to hurt another child. Marcus's story spread throughout the community, inspiring other security guards, teachers, and citizens to be more vigilant about child welfare. Several other abuse cases were discovered and stopped as a result of people who had attended Marcus's training sessions. The mall where it all began installed a plaque near the security office, recognizing Marcus's heroic actions. But Marcus always insisted that the real heroes were the children like Emma, who found the strength to survive and heal. Emma still visits Marcus occasionally, usually accompanied by her mother. She's growing up to be a remarkable young lady who wants to become a social worker like her mother, helping other children who have experienced trauma. She